Yeah, life is so much psychology. So yeah, sure.
No, I think also it's about knowing yourself, knowing your own strengths and weaknesses and accepting them. I remember like in the very early stages of my career, I wanted to emulate people a lot. I wanted to try and be like them instead of like trying to understand myself better. I think there's a certain degree of introspection, knowing what you're good at and knowing, where you're not so strong, and accepting those weaknesses and doubling up on your strengths, I think is pretty important. I think I can tell you the earliest days of when I started on my own were some of the darkest days of my life. So, you don't have a job. You have no form of income. And it's very easy for people to think you're unemployed. And like a lot of people did think I was unemployed.
Yeah. And most of the people that try the same thing as you failed. So,
Well, I don't think you fail. I think you give up. Because, interesting fact, I was actually telling someone this week, the Snode devices that are through these 155, 6 continents, everything, sat in my mom's kitchen for 4 years before the first person bought them. Literally, they used to sit on the kitchen table. They were stacked up on the kitchen table. We couldn't sell them. So, it's very easy at that point in time. I think a lot of people actually give up rather than fail. They give up. It's easy to give up at that particular point in time. I think we started a world-class, we were going to be a world-class cyber defense firm. But our first job was for a guy named Yadir Mulu.
Okay.
He's the CEO of Levengers now.
Okay.
Back then, he had a pizza parlor in Pretoria. And our first job was connecting his computers to his printer slips and to his infrared. And interestingly enough, the guy who did the work with me, he was my first employee. He's now our client. He's the head of IT for one of our bigger clients. And it's funny how the world works in mysterious ways. And his brother is now at Snode, has started with us for 2 years. But back then we were just 2 people. We were claiming to be building this world-class cyber security company. And there we were like running cables in this pizza place, trying to get the dot matrix printer to work. So, you start with humble beginnings. That job, I think we got paid 3,000 rands for it. His salary was 3,000 rands. And I didn't make a salary from Snode. Sure, I can't tell you for how long. For the first few years. And even after that, it wasn't like one day suddenly things turned for me and, it was raining money. It was a slow progression. We got our first couple of clients. We ended up doing work for, the likes of PwC, all their technical assessment work, Department of Defense. We ended up doing work for them, which we can't talk about too much right now. But that was the old business. That was the consulting business.
Well, good. I'm glad that the Department of Defense is working with you.
Yeah. Well, worked with the old business. Yeah. I can't tell you who works with our current business. Yeah, you start there. You start at the pizza parlor, and then the next thing you know, you're booked for 6 months, and you're doing work for, the biggest defense interests in the country. You're doing work for the biggest consulting firms. You're doing work for all the big banks. Yeah. That's how it kind of unfolds.
Yeah, what's that called? Imposter syndrome. Then you sort of start feeling, am I faking this, or that's kind of that kind of fear. I think they call it. I hear lots of famous people have it, and they still kind of get an imposter syndrome. Sometimes you're like, is it? So I'm surrounded by the generals and whoever else, and it's just little on me.
I don't know how to pinpoint imposter syndrome, because a lot of people talk to me about it. But the one thing I can tell you is some days when I look, and I shouldn't actually be saying this where my my team can hear it. But when I look at what's going on around me, it's absolutely crazy. When I look at like some of the, when you realize you're deploying tech in the jungles in South America, and you just think to yourself, hey, reality check, do you really know what you're doing, or do you really have everything under control? And I guess that's similar to the sensation you're talking about. Is that sometimes that does happen. You can't believe some of the things that actually happening around you is happening.
You said everybody has the fears, and they're not necessarily bad.
No, fear is a good thing.
Yeah.
The absence of fear is not bravery, like I said.
Yeah.
The fear is very healthy.
Yeah. And similar to kind of like that Steve Jobs message, you do what you love, because in the end you'll persevere. You're not going to give up.
Yeah.